Italian Mafia and Japanese Yakuza, two notorious criminal powers. Two opposing models of authority. On one side, there's a global criminal empire controlling drug markets, money laundering, and arms trafficking. On the other, an organization operating openly, infiltrating politics, finance, and legitimate economies. But the question is, who is truly stronger? The Italian Mafia uses violence, money, and purges to maintain power. But they are always the number one target for law enforcement. The Yakuza builds a system of honor, controlling society from within, but they are under much tighter surveillance. Two paths, two strategies. Who do you think is the true kingpin of the underworld? Let's analyze, from organizational structure, scope of operations, strategies for dealing with authorities, money laundering methods, to their involvement in the global drug trade, to reach the final question: which organization is truly invincible? The Italian Mafia and the Japanese Yakuza, two notorious criminal organizations with completely different power structures. One is built on blood relations, with absolute loyalty to the family. The other operates like a modern-day samurai army, where hierarchy and honor are everything. But which system is truly stronger? The Italian Mafia has a power structure like a criminal dynasty. The Don holds supreme authority. Beneath him are the underboss, advisors, and the leaders of each group that controls various territories. Loyalty is sworn by blood, and betrayal means death. However, this closed nature also makes them prone to division, as each family has its own goals, making power struggles likely. The Japanese Yakuza, on the other hand, is different. They not only accept members from powerful families, but anyone can join, as long as they prove their loyalty. Their system is based on the Senpai Kahai principle. Similar to feudal military organizations, the Oyabun, Don, is the highest authority. The Wakagashira, underboss, oversees activities, and smaller groups are responsible for carrying out tasks. The discipline in the Yakuza is so strict that if a mistake is made, the individual must cut off their finger to atone. Two opposing models. The Italian Mafia controls internally through bloodlines but is prone to division. The Yakuza builds a system of iron discipline, but their harshness can weaken their own morale. So, which model is more effective in the criminal world? If you had to choose, would you opt for absolute loyalty or honor and discipline? In the world of crime, the power of an organization is not only based on its ruthlessness but also on the scale and scope of its operations. A gang, no matter how disciplined, cannot become a kingpin if it controls only a small area. The Italian Mafia and the Japanese Yakuza are two massive criminal forces. But the ways they expand their power are completely different. The Italian Mafia chooses global expansion, while the Yakuza focuses on building strong power within Japan's borders. The Italian Mafia originated in Sicily and quickly expanded to the US and other continents. Since Italian immigrants came to the US in the late 19th century, the Mafia took control of casinos, construction, transport, and even politics in major cities like New York, Chicago, and Los Angeles. They also dominate the cocaine market in Europe, with 'Ndrangheta controlling 80% of it. However, the Italian Mafia faces the problem of power dispersion, as the organization is divided into multiple factions, such as Cosa Nostra, Camorra, and 'Ndrangheta. This dispersion makes it difficult to maintain internal stability and the authority of the groups. In contrast, the Japanese Yakuza focuses on controlling Japan with a clear and legal organizational system. They have offices, registered businesses, and are involved in legal industries such as real estate, finance, and entertainment. The Yakuza does not need to rely on drugs to maintain power, as they can do so through legitimate sectors. However, they face risks from the tightening of anti-organized crime laws by the Japanese government. Although the Yakuza has a more stable internal system with strict discipline, there have still been internal conflicts, such as the 2015 split of Yamaguchi-gumi. The Italian Mafia has global power but is prone to internal divisions, while the Yakuza is more tightly organized but confined within Japan. Both organizations face their own challenges, and the question is which one has the more sustainable strategy. Can the Italian Mafia maintain global power while facing internal wars and factionalism? Can the Yakuza maintain its position when the Japanese government tightens anti-crime measures? This question opens up the potential for a confrontation between these two forces if one of them expands into the other's territory. A criminal organization needs a strategy to deal with the government in order to survive long-term. The Italian Mafia and the Japanese Yakuza have different approaches. The Italian Mafia uses violence, bribery, and political manipulation to control the government. If bribery doesn't work, they are willing to resort to assassination, as seen in the killings of judges Giovanni Falcone and Paolo Borsellino. However, violence only increases government crackdowns, causing the mafia to suffer losses. On the other hand, the Yakuza infiltrates the social and political systems. Using personal relationships instead of money to maintain control, they create dependency between politicians, businessmen, and police officers, making it difficult for the government to eliminate them. Even though they are aware of these connections, the Yakuza rarely uses open violence. Instead, they employ secretive measures to deal with those who oppose them. The major difference between the two organizations is how they face pressure from the government. The Italian Mafia confronts the system directly and is constantly hunted, while the Yakuza has deeply infiltrated the system and exists publicly. However, the big question is which strategy is more effective: violence and money or covert infiltration of the system? If violence is the tool for control, money is what helps a criminal organization survive in the long term. However, there's one problem that every criminal organization faces: money earned from illegal activities cannot be used openly. If a crime boss walks into a bank with millions of dollars in cash from drug trafficking, extortion, or gambling, he will immediately attract attention. This is why both the Italian Mafia and the Japanese Yakuza have become masters of the art of money laundering, turning dirty money into legitimate assets that cannot be traced. However, their methods for doing this are entirely different. The Italian Mafia uses a complex system, funneling money through shell companies, real estate, and foreign banks. While the Yakuza is more sophisticated, they position themselves as legitimate businessmen, controlling the finance sector and legalizing money from the outset. So, which strategy is truly more effective? The Italian Mafia understands that money laundering is not just about hiding the source of funds, but also ensuring that the money can be reinvested in other activities without being detected by authorities. One of the most common ways they do this is by investing in real estate. A house, hotel, or resort can be the perfect vehicle for laundering dirty money. They buy these assets with cash, then resell them at a higher price or use them to generate legitimate income. This is why many popular tourist areas in Italy, Spain, and even the US have been suspected of mafia involvement in real estate transactions. But that's just one part of the game. They also use shell companies, businesses that exist only on paper but are not truly operational. These companies create fake invoices, report fake revenues, helping to legitimize the money earned from illegal activities. What's special about these companies is that they often have ties to legitimate businesses, creating a financial maze that even the authorities would have a hard time tracing. But the Italian Mafia doesn't stop there. One of their most powerful tools is the use of foreign banks. Financial havens such as Switzerland, the Cayman Islands, or Panama have long been ideal destinations for hiding money. The Italian Mafia can transfer money through multiple countries, use fake identities, or create complex transactions to launder billions of dollars every year. And while they used to rely on traditional banking systems, today they also take advantage of cryptocurrency. Anonymous transactions using Bitcoin or other cryptocurrencies open a new avenue for money laundering that is difficult for authorities to control. But the problem is, no matter how complex the system is, there's always a risk. If a single link in the financial chain is discovered, it can bring down the entire system. This is the biggest weakness of the Italian Mafia. They are too dependent on financial tools that could be tightened by authorities at any time. In contrast, the Japanese Yakuza has a completely different money laundering strategy. Instead of hiding money, they find ways to legalize it from the outset. This means they don't need to create shell companies or transfer money abroad. Because from the beginning, they control legitimate businesses that can generate lawful income. One of the sectors the Yakuza controls most strongly is the entertainment industry. Hundreds of bars, Nightclubs and entertainment clubs in Japan have ties to the Yakuza. These places are not only venues for making money but also perfect vehicles for legalizing revenue from other illegal activities like gambling, prostitution, or usury. But it doesn't stop there. The Yakuza also controls the finance industry. They invest in stocks, own shares in major companies, and even have connections with legitimate banks. This creates a huge advantage. Instead of worrying about money laundering, they can use the legitimate financial system to create clean money right from the start. However, this is also a double-edged sword. The public nature of their financial activities makes the Yakuza more susceptible to surveillance. If the Japanese government ever decides to conduct a comprehensive investigation into businesses with ties to the Yakuza, they could be severely impacted. This is the biggest difference between the Yakuza and the Italian Mafia. One side operates like ghosts, using the global financial system to hide money. The other has built a legitimate network within Japan, turning crime into legitimate business. So, which organization truly launders money more effectively? The Italian Mafia may earn more money in the short term, but their system is at risk of collapse if authorities tighten financial control. The Yakuza has a more sustainable strategy, but the public nature of their activities makes them easier to monitor. The question is, if you were a criminal organization, which route would you choose? Do you want to control underground banks and shell companies to keep everything secret? Or would you prefer to legalize your operations from the start and accept the risk of government surveillance? And more importantly, in the future, as financial technology continues to develop, who will truly be the master of the money laundering game? In the world of organized crime, no field is as profitable and lucrative as drugs. For any organization to truly become a kingpin, it cannot afford to stay out of this market. But drugs are also a double-edged sword because once you enter, there is no turning back. Enormous profits come with intense crackdowns from the authorities, and those involved in the game know that sooner or later, they will become targets. Both the Italian Mafia and the Japanese Yakuza have different strategies in controlling this market. One has chosen to dominate globally, bringing tons of cocaine and heroin into Europe, earning billions of dollars annually. The other is more cautious, controlling the domestic drug market while avoiding transactions that could harm their image. But the most important question is, which strategy is truly more effective? The Italian Mafia, particularly the 'Ndrangheta organization, is one of the most powerful forces in the global drug market today. Unlike smaller gangs that focus only on distribution, the Italian Mafia controls the entire supply chain from start to finish. They have close ties with South American drug cartels, particularly in Colombia, Mexico, and Bolivia. The drug trafficking routes they control stretch from South America to Spain, from the Netherlands to Germany, from Belgium to the major ports in Italy, where tons of cocaine are brought into Europe each year. What makes the Italian Mafia a master in this field is their ability to operate discreetly. Unlike Mexican cartels that use open violence, the Italian Mafia chooses to control the transportation system, infiltrating the legal logistics industry, using trucking companies, ships, and even food shipments to hide drugs. This helps them maintain operations for long periods without being detected. But it's not just cocaine. The Italian Mafia also dominates the heroin market. They have close relationships with criminal organizations in Turkey and Afghanistan, controlling the smuggling routes for heroin from the Middle East into Europe. Heroin is transported through routes in the Balkans, into Italy, and then distributed throughout the region. With the combination of cocaine from South America and heroin from Asia, the Italian Mafia holds a monopoly in the global drug market, earning tens of billions of dollars annually. But because of this dominance, they have also become the #1 target of law enforcement. Over the past 2 decades, hundreds of 'Ndrangheta and Cosa Nostra bosses have been arrested, tons of drugs seized, and while the organization remains strong, no one can deny that being deeply involved in the drug market has made them more vulnerable to law enforcement crackdowns. On the other hand, the Yakuza in Japan has an entirely different strategy. They control the drug market, but not in the way the Italian Mafia does. The Yakuza has long had an unspoken rule: limit their involvement in drug trafficking. This isn't because they have high moral standards, but simply because they understand that drugs attract more attention from the authorities than anything else. In Japan, a drug-related case is always treated more harshly than other crimes. If the Yakuza gets too openly involved in this market, they will soon become the government's primary target. As such, they have chosen a safer path, controlling the domestic methamphetamine market but steering clear of international trafficking routes. Methamphetamine, or shabu, is the most popular drug in Japan, and 80% of the methamphetamine consumed domestically is related to the Yakuza. However, instead of directly distributing it, they use smaller gangs and local criminal organizations to do the work. This allows them to maintain control without leaving obvious traces. Furthermore, the Yakuza has also capitalized on the Southeast Asian market to expand their operations. They have connections with criminal organizations in China, Taiwan, Myanmar, and the Philippines, ensuring a steady supply of methamphetamine without being directly involved in manufacturing or transportation. But what stands out here is the difference in how these two organizations approach the drug market. The Italian Mafia dominates the global market, but because of this, they face immense pressure from the authorities. They make billions of dollars but also lose hundreds of millions each year due to police crackdowns. On the other hand, the Yakuza makes less, but they are safer. They stay away from cocaine and heroin, focusing on methamphetamine, a smaller market but one with much less risk. So, which strategy is more effective? In terms of profit, the Italian Mafia clearly has the upper hand. They control the most lucrative markets, are present worldwide, and can make tens of billions of dollars every year. But in terms of long-term survival, the Yakuza may be taking a wiser path. They don't expand too much, avoid direct confrontations with the authorities, and as a result, they can operate without the Japanese government coming down too heavily on them. The question is, if you were a criminal organization, which path would you choose? Do you want to dominate the global drug market, earn billions, but always be in the sights of the police? Or would you prefer to control a smaller market, earn less, but with much less risk? And more importantly, in the future, as the drug market continues to develop, will the Yakuza decide to expand beyond Japan, or will they continue to stick with their cautious strategy? The most important question in the criminal world is which organization is stronger between the Italian Mafia and the Japanese Yakuza. Each organization has its own way of operating, with its own strengths and weaknesses. The strength of each organization is not just about money or the scope of operations, but also about their ability to survive under pressure from the government, rivals, and internal struggles. The Italian Mafia controls the global drug market and has an extensive network. But it is divided into many factions such as Cosa Nostra, 'Ndrangheta, and Camorra, each with its own conflicts, making it difficult to maintain long-term stability. They are always a target of international law enforcement, and while they continue to exist, they face increasing challenges in maintaining their power. In contrast, the Japanese Yakuza has a centralized system and exists openly with offices and legitimate businesses. They control Japan and do not suffer from the internal divisions like the Mafia, helping them maintain internal stability. However, they are also under more scrutiny from the Japanese government, and if the government decides to act, they could be easily eradicated as they do not have the complex underground system the Mafia does. In terms of scope, the Italian Mafia has the upper hand with a presence in the US, Canada, South America, Europe, and Africa. They control the drug market and have connections with global cartels, bringing in massive revenue. Meanwhile, the Yakuza excels in internal control with a disciplined system and no internal power struggles like the Mafia. When it comes to dealing with authorities, the Yakuza is ahead in terms of strategy. They do not bribe politicians like the Mafia, but instead infiltrate the system, becoming part of the legitimate economy. They avoid violence against officials, understanding that an assassination could turn the government against them. Instead, they build social relationships, getting powerful people to willingly work with them without coercion. This helps them maintain operations safely and avoid becoming top targets for the police. Unlike the Mafia, which is often under intense scrutiny due to its drug trade. Regarding money-making abilities, the Italian Mafia dominates by controlling the largest drug markets, bringing in billions of dollars annually from cocaine and heroin. The Yakuza earns money through other industries like entertainment, finance, and loan sharking, but their income cannot compare to the Mafia's global drug profits. However, this gives them an advantage in that they are less likely to be targeted by authorities, allowing them to survive more stably in the long run. The most important question is, which organization has the ability to survive in the long term? The Italian Mafia may be wealthier, but can they maintain their power as more and more bosses are arrested and drug rings are broken? The Yakuza may have a firm grip on Japan, but if the Japanese government decides to go after them, do they have the strength to survive? And what would happen if one day the Italian Mafia decides to expand into Asia? Or if the Yakuza pushes beyond Japan and enters the international market? While a direct confrontation between the two organizations has not yet occurred, the question raises the potential for a winner based on the best strategy. The Mafia with money and violence or the Yakuza with discipline and legal infiltration? If you had to choose, would you prefer a global empire with the constant risk of collapse? Or a more sustainable organization confined to the boundaries of a single country? Both the Italian Mafia and the Japanese Yakuza are formidable criminal organizations that have existed for centuries and have not been eradicated. While there may be no definitive answer as to which one is stronger, one thing is certain: only the one that adapts best will survive long-term in the underground world. Two organizations, two survival strategies, two completely different paths in the underworld. The Italian Mafia may dominate the global market, but the Yakuza has the ability to maintain a stronghold deep within Japanese society. One expands relentlessly but is prone to division, while the other holds onto power tightly but risks isolation. If you were a mastermind of the underground world, which model would you choose? Leave your thoughts in the comments below. Who do you think is the stronger force? The Italian Mafia or the Japanese Yakuza? Join the debate below, and if you find this topic intriguing, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe so you don't miss out on other in-depth analysis videos.